Canto 42. The Army of the West. Then to Sushe letter 1E47 Sugriva bent, and thus addressed him reverent. 200,000 of our best with thee, my lord, shall seek the west. Explore Surash letter 1E60 RAS, 714. Distant plain explore Valikas, 715, wild domain, and all the pleasant brooks that flee through mountains to the western sea. Search clustering groves on mountain heights, and woods the home of anchorites. Search where the breezy hills are high, search where the desert regions lie. Search all the western land beset with woody mountains like a net. The country's farthest limit reach, and stand upon the ocean beach. There wander through the groves of palm, where the soft air is full of balm. Through grassy dell and dark ravines seek Rav, a letter 1E47, and the Maythil Queen. Go visit Samagiris, 716, steep where Sindhu, 717, mingles with the deep. There lions, borne on swift wings, roam the levels of their mountain home, and elephants and monsters bear, caught from the ocean, to their lair. Yuvanners, changing forms at will, with rapid search must scour the hill, and his sky-kissing peak of gold, where loveliest trees their blooms unfold. There golden-peaked, ablaze with light, uprises Periatras, 718, height where wild Gandharvas, fierce and fell, in bands of countless myriads dwell. Pluck ye no fruit within the wood beware the impious neighborhood, where, very mighty, strong, and hard to overcome, the fruit they guard. Yet search for Janak's daughter still, for Vanners there need fear no ill. Near, bright as turkeys, Vajra 719 named, there stands a hill of diamond framed. Soaring 100 leagues in pride, with trees and creepers glorified. Search there each cave and dark abyss, by waterfall and precipice. Far in that sea the wild waves beat on Chakravans, 720, firm-rooted feet. Where the great discus, 721, thousand rayed by Visvakarmas, 722, art was made. When Panchajan, 723, the fiend was slain. And Hayagriva, 724, fierce in vain, thence taking shell and discus, went Lord Vish letter 1E47U, God preeminent. On 60,000 hills of gold with wondering eyes shall ye behold, where in his glory every one is brilliant as the morning sun. Full in the midst King Meru, 725 best of mountains, lifts his lofty crest, on whom of yore, as all have heard, the sun well pleased this boon conferred. On thee, O king, on thee and thine light, day and night, shall ever shine. Gandharvas, gods who love thee well and on thy sacred summits dwell, undimmed in luster, bright and fair, the golden sheen shall ever share. The Visvas, 726, Vasus, 727, they who ride the tempest, 728, every god beside, draw nigh to Meru's lofty crest when evening darkens in the west, and to the parting lord of day the homage of their worship pay, ere yet a while, unseen of all, behind mount peaks he fall. Wrought by the heavenly artist's care a glorious palace glitters there, and round about it sweet birds sing where the gay trees are blossoming, the home of Varu letter 1E47, 730, high-souled lord, wrist-girded with his deadly cord. 731, with 10 tall stems, a palm between Meru and Astaz hill is seen, pure silver from the base it springs, and far and wide its luster flings. Seek Rav, a letter 1E47, and the dame by brook in pathless glen, in leafy nook on Meru's crest a hermit lives bright with the light that penance gives. Sav a R letter 1E47 732, is he named, renowned as Brahma's peer, with glory crowned. They're bowing down in reverence speak, and ask him of the dame you seek. Thus far the splendid Lord of Day pursues through heaven his ceaseless way, shedding on every spot his light, then sinks behind Mount Astaz height, thus far advance. The sunless sea beyond is all unknown to me. Sushe letter 1E47 of mighty arm, long tried in peril, shall your legions guide. Receive his words with high respect, and ne'er his lightest wish neglect. He is my consort, sire, and hence deserves the utmost reverence. Canto 43. The Army of the North. Forth went the legions of the West, and wise Sugriva addressed Sadabal, summoned from the crowd. To whom the sovereign cried aloud, Go forth, O Vanner chief, go forth, explore the regions of the north. thy host 100,000 be, and Yama's sons, 733, attend on thee. With dauntless courage, strength and skill search every river, wood and hill. Through every land in order, go right onward to the hills of snow. Search mid the peaks that shine afar, in woods of Laud and Deodar. 734, search if with Janak's daughter, screened by sheltering rocks, there lie the fiend. The holy grounds of Soma, tread by gods and minstrels visited. Reach Kala's mount, and flats that lie among the peaks that tower on high. Then leave that hill that gleams with ore, and fair Sudarshan's heights explore. Then on to Devasika, 735, high, loved by the children of the sky. A dreary land you then will see without a hill or brook or tree, 100 leagues, bare, wild, and dread in lifeless desolation, spread. Pursue your onward way, and haste through the dire horrors of the waste, until triumphant with delight you reach Kailasa's glittering height. There stands a palace decked with gold, for King Kuvera, 736, wrought of old, a home the heavenly artist planned and fashioned with his cunning hand. Their lotuses adorn the flood with full-blown flower and opening bud where swans and mallards float, and gay apsarases, 737, come down to play. Their king V, a I execute R a V, a letter 1E47S, 738 self, the Lord by all the universe adored, who golden gifts to mortals sends, lives with the Gahiakas, 739 his friends. Search every cavern in the steep, and green glens where the moonbeams sleep, if haply in that distant ground the robber and the dame be found. Then on to Cronch's hill, 740, and through his fearful pass your way pursue, though dark and terrible the vale your wonted courage must not fail. There through abyss and cavern seek, on lofty ridge and mountain peak on. Pursue your journey still by valley, lake, and towering hill. Reach the North Karush land, where rest the holy spirits of the blessed, where golden buds of lilies gleam resplendent on the silver stream, and leaves of azure turkeys throw soft splendor on the waves below. Bright as the sun at early morn fair pools that happy clime adorn, where shine the loveliest flowers on stems of crystal and all valued gems. Blue lotuses through all the land the glories of their blooms expand, and the resplendent earth is strown with peerless pearl and precious stone. Their stately trees can scarce uphold the burthen of their fruits of gold, and ever flaunt their gay attire of flower and leaf like flames of fire. All their sweet lives untroubled spend in bliss and joy that know not end, while pearl-decked maidens laugh, or sing to music of the silvery string. 741, still on your forward journey keep, and rest you by the northern deep, where springing from the billows high Mount Samagiri, 742, seeks the sky, and lightens with perpetual glow the sunless realm that lies below. There, present through all life's extent, dwells Brahma Lord Preeminent, and round the great God, manifest in Rudra, 743, forms high sages rest. Then turn, O Vanners, search no more nor tempt the sunless, boundless shore. Canto 44. The Ring. But special counseling he gave to Hanuman the wise and brave, to him on whom his soul relied, with friendly words the monarch cried. O best of Vanners, naught can stay by land or sea thy rapid way, who through the air thy flight canst bend, and to the immortals home ascend. All realms, I ween, are known to thee with every mountain, lake, and sea. In strength and speed which naught can tire thou, worthy rival of thy sire the mighty monarch of the wind, where'er thou wilt a way canst find. Exert thy power, O swift and strong, bring back the lady lost so long. For time and place, O thou most wise, lie open to thy searching eyes. When Rama heard that special hest to Hanuman above the rest, he from the monarch's favor drew hope of success and trust anew that he on whom his lord relied, in toil and peril trained and tried, would to a happy issue bring the task commanded by the king. He gave the ring that bore his name, a token for the captive dame, that the sad lady in her woe the missive of her lord might know. This ring, he said, my wife will see nor fear an envoy sent by me. Thy valor and thy skill combined, thy resolute and vigorous mind, and King Sugriva's high behest, with joyful hopes inspire my breast. Canto 45. The Departure. Away, away the vanners sped like locusts o'er the land outspread. To northern realms, where rising high the king of mountains cleaves the sky, fierce Satabal with vast array of vanner warriors led the way. Far southward, as his lord decreed, wise Hanuman, the wind god's seed, with Angad his swift way pursued, and Tara's warlike multitude, strong Vanata with all his band betook him to the eastern land. And brave Sush letter 1E47 in eager quest sped swiftly to the gloomy west. Each vanner chieftain sought with speed the quarter by his king decreed, while from his legions rose on high the shout and boast and battle cry. We will restore the dame and beat the robber down beneath our feet. My arm alone shall win the day from Rav, a letter 1E47 met in single fray, shall rob the robber of his life, and rescue Rama's captive wife, all trembling in her fear and woe. Here, comrades, rest, no farther go, for I will vanquish hell, and she shall by this arm again be free. The rooted mountains will I rend, the mightiest trees will break and bend, earth to her deep foundations cleave, and make the calm sea throb and heave. 100 leagues from steep to steep in desperate bound, my feet shall leap. My steps shall tread unchecked and free, through woods, o'er land and hill and sea, range as they list from flood to fell, and wander through the depths of hell. Canto 46. Sugriva's Tale. How, king, cried Rama, didst thou gain thy lore of sea and hill and plain? I told thee how, Sugriva said. From Bali's arm Mayavi fled, 744, to Malaya's hill, and strove to save his life by hiding in the cave. I told how Bali sought to kill his foe, the hollow of the hill, nor need I, king, again unfold the wondrous tale already told. Then, wandering forth, my way I took by many a town and wood and brook. I roamed the earth from place to place, till, like a mirror's polished face, the whole broad disk that lies between its farthest bounds, mine eyes had seen. I wandered first to eastern skies, where fairest trees rejoiced mine eyes, and many a cave and wooded hill where lilies robed the lake and rill. Their metal dyes that hill, 745, adorn whence springs the sun to light the morn. There, too, I viewed the milky sea, where nymphs of heaven delight to be. Then to the south I made my way from regions of the rising day, and roamed o'er Vindhya, where the breeze is odorous of sandal trees. Still in my fear I found no rest, I sought the regions of the west, and gazed on Astá, 746, where the sun sinks when his daily course is run. Then from that noblest hill I fled, and to the northern country sped, saw Himavan, 747, and Meru steep, and stood beside the northern deep. But when, by Bali's might oppressed, and in those wilds I could not rest, came Hanuman the wise and brave, and thus his prudent counsel gave. I told thee how Matanga, 748, cursed thy tyrant, that his head should burst in pieces, should he dare invade the precincts of that tranquil shade. There may we dwell in peace and be from thy oppressors malice free. We went to Rishiamuka's hill, and spent our days secure from ill where, with that curse upon his head, the cruel Bali durst not tread. Canto 47. The Return. Thus forth in quest of Sítá went the legions King Sugriva sent. To many a distant town, they hied by many a lake and river's side. As their great sovereign's order taught, through valleys, plains, and groves they sought. They twalled unresting through the day. At night upon the ground they lay where the tall trees, whose branches swayed beneath their fruit, gave pleasant shade. Then, when a weary month was spent, back to Execute a letter 1E47 hill they went, and stood with faces of despair before their King Sugriva there. Thus, having wandered through the east, great Vanata his labors ceased, and weary of the fruitless pain returned to meet the king again. Brave Satabali to the north had led his vanner legions forth. Now to Sugriva he sped with all his host dispirited. Sush letter 1E47 the western realms had sought, and homeward now his legions brought. All to Sugriva came, where still he sat with Rama on the hill. Before their sovereign humbly bent, and thus addressed him reverent. On every hill our steps have been, by wood and cave and deep ravine, and all the wandering brooks we know throughout the land that seaward flow, our feet by thy command have traced the tangled thicket and the waste, and dens and dingles hard to pass for creeping plants and matted grass. Well have we searched with toil and pain, and monstrous creatures have we slain, but Hanuman of noblest mind the Maithil lady yet will find, for to his quarter of the sky, 749, the robber fiend was seen to fly. Canto 48. The Asur's death. But Hanuman still onward pressed with Tara, Anged, and the rest. Through Vindhya's pathless glens he sped, and left no spot unvisited. He gazed from every mountain height, he sought each cavern dark as night, and wandered through the bloomy shade by pool and river and cascade, but though they sought in every place, of Sítá yet they found no trace. On fruit and woodland berries fed through many a lonely wild they sped, and reached at last, untouched by fear, a desert terrible and drear. A fruitless waste, a land of gloom where trees were bare of leaf and bloom, where every scanty stream was dried, and niggard earth her roots denied. No elephants through all the ground, no buffaloes or deer are found. There roams no tiger, pard, or bear, no creature of the wood is there. No bird displays his glittering wings, no tree, no shrub, no creeper springs. There rise no lilies from the flood, resplendent with their flower and bud, where the delighted bees may throng about the fragrance with their song. There lived a hermit K, a letter 1E47du named, for truth and wealth of penance famed, whom fervent zeal and holy rite had dowered with all-surpassing might. His little son, a 10-year child, so chanced it perished in the wild. His death with fury stirred the sage, who cursed the forest in his rage, doomed from that hour to shelter none, a waste for bird and beast to shun. They searched by every forest edge, they searched each cave and mountain ledge, and thickets whence the water fell wandering through the tangled dell. Striving to do sugravas, while they roamed along each leafy rill. But vain were all endeavors, vain the careful search, the toil and pain. Through one dark grove they scarce could wind, so thick were creepers intertwined. There as they struggled through the wood before their eyes an Asur, 750, stood. High as a towering hill, his pride the very gods in heaven defied. When on the fiend their glances fell, each braced him for the combat well. The demon raised his arm on high, and rushed upon them with a cry. Him Anged smote, for sure he thought this was the fiend they long had sought. From his huge mouth by Anged felled, the blood in rushing torrents welled, as like a mountain from his base uptorn, he dropped upon his face. Thus fell the mighty fiend, and they through the thick wood pursued their way, then, weary with the toil, reclined where leafy boughs to shade them twined. Canto 49. Anged's speech. Then Anged spake, We Vanners well have searched each valley, cave, and dell, and hill and brook and dark recess, and tangled wood and wilderness. But all in vain, no eye has seen the robber or the Maithil queen. A dreary time has passed away, and stern is he we all obey. Come, cast your grief and sloth aside, again be every effort tried, so haply may our toil attain the sweet success that follows pain. Laborious effort, toil, and skill, the firm resolve, the constant will secure at last the ends we seek. Hence, O my friends, I boldly speak. Once more then, noble hearts, once more let us today this wood explore, and, languor and despair subdued, purchase success with toil renewed. Sugrava is a king austere, and Rama's wrath we needs must fear. Come, Vanners, ye think it wise, and do the thing that I advise. Then Gandamadon thus replied with lips that toil and thirst had dried. Obey his words, for wise and true is all that he has counseled you. Come, let your hosts their toil renew and search each grove and desert through, each towering hill and forest glade. By lake and brook and white cascade, till every spot, as our great Lord commanded, be again explored. Uprose the Vanners one and all, obedient to the chieftain's call, and over the southern regions sped where Vindhya's tangled forests spread. They clomb that hill that towers on high like a huge cloud in autumn's sky, where many a cavern yawns, and streaks of radiant silver deck the peaks. In eager search they wandered through the forests where the laud trees grew, where the dark leaves were thick and green, but found not Rama's darling queen. Then faint with toil, their hearts depressed, descending from the mountain's crest, their weary limbs awhile to ease they lay beneath the spreading trees. Canto 50. The Enchanted Cave. Anged and Tara by his side, again rose Hanuman and tried each mountain cavern, dark and deep, and stony pass and wooded steep, the lioness and the tiger's home, by rushing torrents white with foam. Then with new ardor, south and west, o'er Vindhya's height the search they pressed. The day prescribed was near, and they still wandered on their weary way. They reached the southern land beset with woody mountains like a net. At length a mighty cave they spied that opened in a mountain side, where many a verdant creeper grew, and o'er the mouth its tendrils threw. Thence issued crane and swan and drake, and trooping birds that love the lake. The vanners rushed within to cool their fevered lips in spring or pool. Vast was the cavern dark and dread, where not a ray of light was shed, yet not the more their eyesight failed, their courage sank or valor quailed. On through the gloom the vanners pressed with hunger, thirst, and toil distressed, poor helpless wanderers, sad, forlorn, with wasted faces wan and worn. At length, when life seemed lost for eye, they saw a splendor as of day, a wondrous forest, fair and bright, where golden trees shot flamy light. And lotus-covered pools were there, with pleasant waters fresh and fair, and streams their rippling currents rolled by seats of silver and of gold. Fair houses reared their stately height of burnished gold and lazulite, and glorious was the luster thrown through lattices of precious stone. And there were flowers and fruit on stems of coral decked with rarest gems, and emerald leaves on silver trees, and honeycomb and golden bees. Then, as the vanners nearer drew, a holy woman met their view. Around her form was duly tied a garment of the black deer's hide. 751, pure vaders she shone with light of fervent zeal and holy rite. Then Hanuman before the rest with reverent words the dame addressed, "Who art thou? Say, and who is lord of this vast cave with treasures stored?" Canto 51. Svayamprebha. Assailed by thirst and hunger, dame, within a gloomy vault we came. We saw the cavern opening wide, and straight within its depths we hide. But utterly amazed are we at all the marvels that we see. Whose are the golden trees that gleam with splendor like the morning's beam? These cates of noblest sort. These roots. This wondrous store of rarest fruits. Whose are these calm and cool retreats, these silver homes and golden seats, and lattices of precious stones? Who is the happy lord that owns the golden trees, of rarest scent, neath loads of fruit and blossom bent? Who, strong in holy zeal, had power to deck the streams with richest dower, and bade the lilies bright with gold the glory of their blooms unfold, where fish in living gold below the sheen of changing colors show? Thine is the holy power, I ween, that beautified the wondrous scene. But if another's lady deign to tell us and the whole explain. To him the lady of the cave in words like these her answer gave. Skilled Maya, framed in days of old this magic wood of growing gold. The chief artificer in place was he of all the Danav race. He, for his wise enchantments famed, this glorious dwelling planned and framed. He for 1,000 years endured the sternest penance, and secured from Brahma of all boons the best, the knowledge Usanas, 752, possessed. Lord by that boon of all his will, he fashioned all with perfect skill, and, with his blissful state content, in this vast grove a season spent. By Indra's jealous bolt he fell for loving, charms too well. And Brahma on that nymph bestowed the treasures of this fair abode, wherein her tranquil days to spend in happiness that ne'er may end. Sprung of a lineage old and high, MERUSAVAR letter 1E47 IS, 754 daughter. I guard ever for that heavenly dame this home, Svayamprebha 755 my name, for I have loved the lady long, so skilled in arts of dance and song. But say what cause your steps has led the mazes of this grove to tread? How, strangers, did ye chance to spy the wood concealed from wanderer's eye? Tell clearly why ye come, but first eat of this fruit and quench your thirst. Canto 52. The exit. Rama, he cried, a prince whose sway all peoples of the earth obey, to D a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a KS tangled forest came with his brave brother and his dame. From that dark shade of forest boughs, the giant RAV, a letter 1E47 stole his spouse. Our King Sugrava's orders send these vanners forth to aid his friend, that so the lady be restored uninjured to her sorrowing lord. With Angad and the rest, this band has wandered through the southern land, with careful search in every place the lady and the fiend to trace. We roamed the southern region o'er, and stood upon the ocean's shore. By hunger pressed our strength gave way, beneath the spreading trees we lay, and cried, worn out with toil and woe, no farther, comrades, can we go. Then, as our sad eyes looked around, we spied an opening in the ground, where all was gloomy dark behind the creeping plants that o'er it twined. Forth trooping from the dark recess came swans and mallards numberless, with drops upon their shining wings, as newly bathed where water springs. On, comrades, to the cave, I cried, and all within the portal hide. Each clasping fast another's hand, far onward pressed the vanner band, and still, as thirst and hunger drove, we traced the mazes of the grove. Here thou with hospitable care haste fed us with the noblest fare, preserving us, about to die, with this thy plentiful supply. But how, O pious lady, say, may we thy gracious boon repay? He ceased, the ascetic dame replied, well, vanners, am I satisfied. A life of holy works I led, and from your hands no service need. Then spake again the vanner chief, we came to thee and found relief. Now listen to a new distress, and aid us, holy vauders. Our wanderings in this vasty cave exhaust the time Sugriva gave. Once more then, lady, grant release, and let thy suppliants go in peace again upon their errand sped, for King Sugriva's ire we dread. And the great task our sovereign set, alas, is unaccomplished yet. Thus Hanuman their leader prayed, and thus the dame her answer made. Scarce may the living find their way returning hence to light of day, but I will free you through the might of penance, fast, and holy rite. Close for a while your eyes, or ne'er may you return to upper air. She ceased, the vanners all obeyed, their fingers on their eyes they laid, and, ere a moment's time had fled, were through the mazy cavern led. Again the gracious lady spoke, and joy in every bosom woke. Lo, here again is Vindhya's hill, whose valleys trees and creepers fill, and, by the margin of the sea, PR a V a letter 1E47 where you fain would be. With blessings then she bade adieu, and swift within the cave withdrew. Canto 53. Anged's counsel. They looked upon the boundless main, the awful seat of V a RU letter 1E47's reign, and heard his waters roar and rave terrific with each crested wave. Then in the depths of sorrow drowned, they sat upon the bosky ground, and sadly, as they pondered, grieved for days gone by and not achieved. Pain pierced them through with sharper sting, when, gazing on the trees of spring, they saw each waving bough that showed the treasures of its glorious load. And helpless, fainting with the weight of woe, they sank disconsolate. Then, lion-shouldered, stout and strong, the noblest of the vanner throng, Anged the prince imperial rose, and, deeply stricken by the woes that his impetuous spirit broke, thus gently to the chieftain spoke. Mark ye not, vanners, that the day our monarch fixed has passed away. The month is lost in toil and pain, and now, my friends, what hopes remain? On you, in lore of counsel tried, our King Sugriva most relied. Your hearts, with strong affection fraught, his weal in every labor sought, and the true valor of your band was blazoned wide in every land. Forth on the toilsome search you sped, by me, for so he willed it, led to us of every hope bereft, death is the only refuge left. For none a happy life may see, who fails to do our king's decree. Come, let us all from food abstain, and perish thus, since hope is vain. Stern is our king and swift to ire, imperious, proud and fierce like fire, and ne'er will pardon us the crime of fruitless search and wasted time. Far better thus to end our lives, and leave our wealth, our homes and wives, leave our dear little ones and all, than by his vengeful hand to fall. Think not Sugriva's wrath will spare me Bali's son, imperial heir, for Raghu's royal son, not he, to this high place anointed me. Sugriva, long my bitter foe, with eager hand will strike the blow, and, mindful of the old offense, will slay me now for negligence, nor will my pitying friends have power to save me in the deadly hour. Know here, O chieftains, will I lie by ocean's marge and fast and die. They heard the royal prince declare the purpose of his fixed despair, and all, by common terror moved, his speech in these sad words approved. Sugriva's heart is hard and stern, and Rama's thoughts for Sítá yearn. Our forfeit lives will surely pay for idle search and long delay, and our fierce king will bid us die the favor of his friend to buy. Then Tara softly spake to cheer the Vanners, hearts oppressed by fear. Despair no more, your doubts dispel, come in this ample cavern dwell. There may we live in blissful ease mid springs and fruit and bloomy trees, secure from every foe's assault, for magic framed the wondrous vault. Protected there, we need not fear though Rama and our king come near, nor dreading him who batters down the portals of the foeman's town. 756. Canto 54. Hanuman's speech. But Hanuman, while Tara, best of splendid chiefs his thought expressed, perceived that Bali's princely son a kingdom for himself had won. 757. His keen eye marked in him combine the warrior's arm, the ruler's mind, and every noble gift should grace the happy sovereign of his race. Marked how he grew with ripening age more glorious and bold and sage, like the young moon that night by night shines on with ever-waxing light, brave as his royal father, wise as he who counsels in the skies. 758. Marked how, forwearied with the quest, he heeded not his liege's hest, but Tara's every word obeyed like Indra still by Sukra. 759 swayed. Then with his prudent speech he tried to better thoughts the prince to guide, and by divisions skillful art the Vanners and the youth to part. Illustrious Anged, thou in fight haste far surpass thy father's might, most worthy, like thy sire of old, the empire of our race to hold. The Vanners, fickle people range from wish to wish and welcome change. Their wives and babes they will not leave, and to their new-made sovereign cleave. No art, no gifts will draw away the Vanners from Sugriva's sway, through hope of wealth. Through fear of pain, still faithful will they all remain. Thou fondly hopest in this cave, the vengeance of the foe to brave. But LAK-SHM, a letter 1E47S arm, a shower will send of deadly shafts those walls to rend. Like Indra's bolts, his shafts have power to cleave the mountain like a flower. O Anged, mark my counsel well. If in this cave thou choose to dwell, these Vanner hosts with one accord will quit thee for their lawful lord, and turn again with thirsty eyes to wife and babe and all they prize. Thou in the lonely cavern left of followers and friends bereft, wilt be in all thy woe, alas, weak as a blade of trembling grass, and LAK-SHM, a letter 1E47S arrows, keen and fierce from his strong bow, thy heart will pierce. But if in lowly reverence meek Sugriva's court with us thou seek, he, as thy birth demands, will share the kingdom with the royal heir. Thy loving kinsman, true and wise, looks on thee still with favoring eyes. Firm in his promise, pure is he, and ne'er will vex or injure thee. He loves thy mother, lives for her a faithful friend and worshipper. That mother's love thou mayst not spurn, her only child, return, return. Canto 55. Anged's reply. What truth or justice canst thou find, cried Anged, in Sugriva's mind? Where is his high and generous soul, his purity and self-control? How is he worthy of our trust, righteous and true and wise and just, who, shrinking not from sin and shame, durst take his living brother's dame? Who, when, in stress of mortal strife, his noble brother fought for life, against the valiant warrior barred the portal which he stood to guard? Can he be grateful, he who took the hand of Rama, and forsook that friend who saved him in his woes, to whom his life and fame he owes? Ah no. His heart is cold and mean, what bids him search for Rama's queen? Not honor's law, not friendship's debt, but angry LAK-SHM, a letter 1E47S timely threat. No prudent heart will ever place its trust in one so false and base, who heeds not friendship, kith or kin, who scorns the law and cleaves to sin. But true or false, whate'er he be, one consequence I clearly see. Me, in my youth anointed heir against his wish, he will not spare, but strike with eager hand the blow that rids him of a household foe. Shall I have power and friends despoiled, in all my purpose crossed and foiled? Shall I Kishkandha seek and wait, like some poor helpless thing my fate? The cruel wretch through lust of sway will seize upon his hapless prey, and to a prison's secret gloom, the remnant of my years will doom. 'Tis better far to fast and die than hopeless bound in chains to lie. Your steps, O Vanners, homeward bend and leave me here my life to end. Better to die of hunger here than meet at home the fate I fear. Go, bow you at Sugriva's feet, and in my name the monarch greet. Before the sons of Raghu bend, and give the greeting that I send. Greet kindly Ruma too, for she a son's affection claims from me, and gently calm with friendly care my mother Tara's wild despair. Or, when she hears her darling's fate, the queen will die disconsolate. Thus Anged bade the chiefs adieu. Then on the ground his limbs he threw where sacred Darbha, 760, grass was spread, and wept as every hope had fled. The moving words of Anged drew down aged cheeks the piteous dew. And as the chieftain's eyes grew dim, they swore to stay and die with him. On holy grass whose every blade was duly, pointing southward laid, the Vanners sat them down and bent their faces to the orient, while, here, O comrades, let us die with Anged, was the general cry. Canto 56. Sampati. Then came the vultures, mighty king where sat the Vanners sorrowing, Sampati. 761, best of birds that fly on sounding pinions through the sky, J a letter 160, Ayus brother, famed of old, most glorious and strong and bold. Upon the slope of Vindhya's hill, he saw the Vanners calm and still. These words he uttered, while the sight filled his fierce spirit with delight. Behold how fate with changeless laws within his toils the sinner draws, and brings me, after long delay, a rich and noble feast today, these Vanners who are doomed to die my hungry maw to satisfy. He spoke no more, and Anged heard the menace of the mighty bird, and thus, while anguish filled his breast, the noble Hanuman addressed. Vivasvats, 762, son has sought this place for vengeance on the Vanner race. See Yama, wroth for Sita's sake, is come our guilty lives to take. Our king's decree is left undone, and not achieved for Raghu's son. In duty have we failed, and hence comes punishment for dire offense. Have we not heard the marvels wrought by King J a letter 160, Ayus, 763, how he fought with Rav a letter 147 Esmite, and nobly brave, perished the Mathil queen to save. There is no living creature, none, but loves to die for Raghu's son, and in long toils and dangers we have placed our lives in jeopardy. Blessed is J a letter 160, Ayus, he who gave his life the Mathil queen to save, and proved his love for Rama well when by the giant's hand he fell. Now raised to bliss and high renown he fears not fierce Sugriva's frown. Alas, alas! What miseries spring from that rash promise of the king. 764, his own sad death, and Rama sent with Lakshman a letter 147 forth to banishment. The Mathil lady borne away, J a letter 160 Ayus slain in mortal fray, the fall of Bali when the dart of Rama quivered in his heart and, after toil and pain and care, our misery and deep despair. He ceased, the feathered monarch heard, his heart with ruth and wonder stirred. Whose is that voice? The vulture cried. That tells me how J a letter 160 Ayus died, and shakes my inmost soul with woe for a loved brother's overthrow. After long days at length, I hear the glorious name of one so dear. Once more, O Vanner chieftains, tell how King J a letter 160 Ayus fought and fell. But first your aid, I pray you, lend, and from this peak will I descend. The sun has burnt my wings, and I no longer have the power to fly. Canto 57. Anged's speech. Though grief and woe his utterance broke, they trusted not the words he spoke, but, looking still for secret guile, reflected in their hearts a while. If on our mangled limbs he feed, we gain the death ourselves decreed. Then rose the Vanner chiefs, and lent their arms to aid the bird's descent, and Anged spake. There lived of yore a noble Vanner king who bore the name of Riksharaj's, great and brave and strong and fortunate. His sons were like their father, fame knows Bali and Sugriva's name. Praised in all lands, a glorious king was Bali, and from him I spring. Brave Rama, Dasaratha's heir, a glorious prince beyond compare, his sire and duty's law obeyed, and sought the depths of D a letter 147 letter 110 a K, shade Sítá his well-beloved dame, and Lakshman a letter 147, with the wanderer came. A giant watched his hour, and stole the sweet delight of Rama's soul. J a letter 160 Ayus, Dasaratha's friend, swift succor to the dame would lend. Fierce Rav, a letter 147 from his car he felled, and for a time the prize withheld. But bleeding, weak with years, and tired, beneath the demon's blows expired, due rights at Rama's hands obtained, and bliss that ne'er shall minish gained. Then Rama with Sugriva made a covenant for mutual aid, and Bali, to the field defied, by conquering Rama's arrow died. Sugriva then, by Rama's grace, was monarch of the Vanir race. By his command a mighty host seeks Rama's queen from coast to coast. Sent forth by him, in every spot we looked for her but find her not. Vain is the toil, as though by night we sought to find the day god's light. In lands unknown at length, we found a spacious cavern underground, whose vaults that stretch beneath the hill were formed by Maya's magic skill. Through the dark maze our steps were bent, and wandering there a month we spent, and lost in fruitless error, thus the days our king allotted us. Thus we though faithful have transgressed, and failed to keep our Lord's behest. No chance of safety can we see, no lingering hope of life have we. Sugriva's wrath and Rama's hate press on our souls with grievous weight, and we, because 'tis vain to fly, resolve at length to fast and die. Canto 58. Tidings of Sítá. The piteous tears his eye bedewed, as thus his speech the bird renewed. Alas, my brother, slain in fight by Rav, a letter 1E47's unresisted might. I old and wingless, weak and worn, o'er his sad fate can only mourn. Fled is my youth, in life's decline my former strength no more is mine. Once on the day when Vritra, 765 died, we brothers in ambitious pride, sought, mounting with adventurous flight, the day god garlanded with light. On, ever on we urged our way where fields of ether round us lay, till by the fervent heat assailed, my brother's pinions flagged and failed. I marked his sinking strength, and spread my stronger wings to screen his head, till, all my feathers burnt away on Vindhya's hill I fell and lay. There in my lone and helpless state I heard, not of my brother's fate. Thus King Sampati spoke and sighed, and royal Anged thus replied. If, brother of Jatius, thou hast heard the tale I told, but now, obedient to mine earnest prayer the dwelling of that fiend declare. Oh, say where cursed Rav, a letter 1E47 dwells, whom folly to his death impels. He ceased. Again Sampati spoke, and hope in every breast awoke. Though lost my wings and strength decayed, yet shall my words lend Rama aid. I know the worlds where Vish letter 1E47 you trod, 766, I know the realm of ocean's god, how Asurs fought with heavenly foes, and Amrit from the churning rose. 767 a mighty task before me lies, to prosper Rama's enterprise, a task too hard for one whom length of days has rifled of his strength. I saw the cruel Rav, a letter 1E47 bear a gentle lady through the air. Bright was her form, and fresh and young, and sparkling gems about her hung. "O Rama, Rama," cried the dame, and shrieked in terror LAKSHM, a letter 1E47's name, as, struggling in the giant's hold, she dropped her gauds of gems and gold. Like sunlight on a mountain shone the silken garments she had on, and glistened o'er his swarthy form as lightning flashes through the storm. That giant Rav, a letter 1E47, famed of old, is brother of the Lord of Gold. 768, the southern ocean roars and swells round Lanka, where the robber dwells in his fair city, nobly planned and built by Visvakarmas, 769, hand. Within his bower securely barred, with monsters round her for a guard, still in her silken vesture clad lies Sítá, and her heart is sad. 100 leagues your course must be beyond this margin of the sea. Still to the south your way pursue, and there the giant Rav, a letter 1E47 view. Then up, O Vanners, and away. For by my heavenly lore I say, there will you see the lady's face, and hither soon your steps retrace. In the first field of air are born the doves and birds that feed on corn. The second field supports the crows and birds, whose food on branches grows. Along the third in balanced flight sail the keen osprey and the kite. Swift through the fourth the falcon springs, the fifth the slower vulture wings. Up to the sixth the gay swans rise, where royal Ayodhyá, 770 flies. We too, O chiefs of vulture race, our line from Vinata may trace, condemned, because we wrought a deed of shame, on flesh and blood to feed. But all sup, a r letter 1E47 a s, 771, wondrous powers and length of keenest sight are ours, that we 100 leagues away through fields of air descry our prey. Now from this spot my gazing eye can rav a letter 1e47, and the dame descry. Devise some plan to overleap this barrier of the briny deep. Find the Vidhin lady there, and joyous to your home repair. Me too, O Vanners, to the side of V a ru letter 1e47s, 772, home the ocean, guide, where due libations shall be paid to my great-hearted brother's shade. Canto 59. Sampadi's story. They heard his counsel to the close, then swiftly to their feet they rose, and Jambavan with joyous breast the vulture king again addressed. Where's Sítá? Who has seen, who borne away the Maithil queen? Who would the lightning flight withstand by shm, a letter 1e47s hand? Again Sampadi spoke to cheer the Vanners as they bent to hear. Now listen, and my words shall show what of the Maithil dame I know, and in what distant prison lies the lady of the long dark eyes. Scorched by the fiery god of day, high on this mighty hill I lay. A long and weary time had passed, and strength and life were failing fast. Yet ere the breath had left my frame, my son, my dear Suparsva, came. Each morn and eve he brought me food, and filial care my life renewed. But serpents still are swift to ire, Gandharva's slaves to soft desire, and we, imperial vultures, need a full supply our maws to feed. Once he turned at close of day, stood by my side, but brought no prey. He looked upon my ravenous eye, heard my complaint, and made reply. Borne on swift wings ere day was light eye stood upon Mahendra's, 773 height, and far below, the sea I viewed and birds in countless multitude. Before mine eyes a giant flew, whose monstrous form was dark of hue, and struggling in his grasp was borne a lady radiant as the morn. Swift to the south his course he bent, and cleft the yielding element. The holy spirits of the air came round me as I marveled there, and cried as their bright legions met, "O say, is Sítá living yet?" Thus cried the saints, and told the name of him who held the struggling dame. Then while mine eye with eager look pursued the path the robber took, I marked the lady's streaming hair, and heard her cry of wild despair. I saw her silken vesture rent and stripped of every ornament. Thus, O my father, fled the time, forgive, I pray, the heedless crime. In vain the mournful tale I heard my pitying heart to fury stirred. What could a helpless bird of air, reft of his boasted pinions, dare? Yet can I aid with all that will and words can do, and friendly skill. Canto 60. Sampadi's story. Then from the flood Sampadi paid due offerings to his brother's shade. He bathed him when the rites were done, and spake again to Bali's son. Now listen, prince, while I relate how first I learned the lady's fate. Burnt by the sun's resistless, might I fell and lay on Vindhya's height. 7 nights in deadly swoon I passed, but struggling life returned at last. Around I bent my wondering view, but every spot was strange and new. I scanned the sea with eager ken, and rock and brook and lake and glen, I saw gay trees their branches wave, and creepers mantling o'er the cave. I heard the wild birds' joyous song, and waters as they foamed along, and knew the lovely hill must be Mount Vindhya by the southern sea. Revered by heavenly beings, stood near where I lay, a sacred wood, where great Nisakar dwelt of yore and pains of awful penance bore. 8,000 seasons winged their flight over the toiling anchorite. Upon that hill my days were spent, and then to heaven the hermit went. At last, with long and hard assay, down from that height I made my way, and wandered through the mountain pass rough with the spikes of darbha grass. I with my misery worn, and faint was eager to behold the saint, for often with J a letter 1e60, I had sought his home in days gone by. As nearer to the grove I drew the breeze with cooling fragrance blew, and not a tree that was not fair, with richest flower and fruit was there. With anxious heart awhile I stayed beneath the trees' delightful shade, and soon the holy hermit, bright with fervent penance, came in sight. Behind him bears and lions, tame as those who know their feeder, came, and tigers, deer, and snakes pursued his steps, a wondrous multitude, and turned obeisant when the sage had reached his shady hermitage. Then came Nisakar to my side, and looked with wondering eyes, and cried, "I knew thee not, so dire a change has made thy form and feature strange. Where are thy glossy feathers? Where the rapid wings that cleft the air? 2 vulture brothers once I knew, each form at will could they undo. They of the vulture race were kings, and flew with Madarisva's 774 wings. In human shape, they loved to greet their hermit friend and clasp his feet. The younger was J, a letter 1E60, Ayus, thou the elder whom I gaze on now. Say, has disease or foeman's hate reduced thee from thy high estate? Canto 61. Sempati's story. Ah me! O'erwhelmed with shame and weak with wounds, I cried, I scarce can speak. My hapless brother once, in our strength of flight resolved to try, and by our foolish pride, impelled our way through realms of ether held. We vowed before the saints who tread the wilds about Kailas's head, that we with following wings would chase the swift sun to his resting place. Up on our soaring pinions, through the fields of cloudless air we flew. Beneath us far, and far away like chariot wheels bright cities lay, whence in wild snatches rose the song of women mid the gay-clad throng, with sounds of sweetest music blent, and many a tinkling ornament. Then, as our rapid wings, we strained the pathway of the sun we gained. Beneath us all the earth was seen clad in her garb of tender green, and every river in her bed meandered like a silver thread. We looked on Meru far below and Vindhya, and the Lord of Snow, like elephants that bend to cool their fever in a lilied pool. But fervent heat and toil o'ercame the vigor of each yielding frame, our weary hearts began to quail, and wildered sense to reel and fail. We knew not, fainting and distressed, the north or south or east or west. With a great strain mine eyes I turned where the fierce sun before me burned, and seemed to my astonished eyes the equal of the earth in size. 775, at length, Orpord, J a letter 1E60, Ayus fell without a word to say farewell, and when to earth I saw him high I followed headlong from the sky. 776, with sheltering wings I intervened and from the sun his body screened, but lost, for heedless folly doomed, my pinions which the heat consumed. In Janisthan, I hear them say, my hapless brother fell and lay. I, pinionless and faint and weak, dropped upon Vindhya's woody peak. Now with my swift wings burnt away, reft of my brother and my sway, from this tall mountain's summit, I will cast me headlong down and die. Canto 62. Sempati's story. As to the saint, I thus complained, my bitter tears fell unrestrained. He pondered for a while, then broke the silence, and thus calmly spoke. Forth from thy sides again shall spring, O royal bird, each withered wing, and all thine ancient power and might return to thee with strength of sight. A noble deed has been foretold in prophecy, pronounced of old, nor dark to me are future things, seen by the light which penance brings. A glorious king shall rise and reign, the pride of old Ikshvaku's strain. A good and valiant prince, his heir, shall the dear name of Rama bear. With his brave brother L a Kshm a letter 1E47, he an exile in the woods shall be, where are Av a letter 1E47, whom no god may slay. 777, shall steal his darling wife away. In vain the captive will be wooed with proffered love and dainty food, she will not hear, she will not taste. But lest her beauty wane and waste, Lord Indra's self will come to her with heavenly food and minister. Then envoys of the Vanner race by Rama sent will seek this place. To them, O roamer of the air, the lady's fate shalt thou declare. Thou must not move, so maimed thou art thou canst not from this spot depart. Await the day and moment due, and thy burnt wings will sprout anew. I might this day the boon bestow and bid again thy pinions grow, but wait until thy saving deed the nations from their fear have freed. Then for this glorious aid of thine the princes of Ikshvaku's line, and gods above and saints below eternal gratitude shall owe. Fain would mine aged eyes behold that pair of whom my lips have told, yet wearied here I must not stay, but leave my frame and pass away. Canto 63. Sempati's story. With this and many a speech beside my failing heart he fortified, with glorious hope my breast inspired, and to his holy home retired. I scaled the mountain height, to view the region round and looked for you. In ceaseless watchings night and day 100 seasons passed away, and by the sage's words consoled I wait the hour and chance foretold. But since Nisakar sought the skies, and cast away all earthly ties. Full many a care and doubt has pressed with grievous weight upon my breast. But for the saint who turned aside my purpose, I had surely died. Those hopeful words the hermit spake, that bid me live for Rama's sake, dispel my anguish as the light of lamp and torch disperse the night. He ceased, and in the vanners, view forth from his side young pinions grew, and boundless rapture filled his breast as thus the chieftains he addressed. Joy, joy. The pinions, which the Lord of Day consumed, are now restored through the dear grace and boundless might of that illustrious anchorite. The fire of youth within me burns, and all my wonted strength returns. Onward, ye vanners, toil strive, and you shall find the dame alive. Look on these new-found wings, and hence be strong in surest confidence. Swift from the crag, he sprang to try his pinions in his native sky. His words the chieftain's doubts had stilled, and every heart with courage filled. 778. Canto 64. The sea. Shouts of triumphant joy outrang as to their feet the vanners sprang, and, on the mighty task intent, swift to the sea their steps they bent. They stood and gazed upon the deep, whose billows with a roar and leap on the sea banks where wildly hurled, the mirror of the mighty world. There on the strand the vanners stayed, and with sad eyes the deep surveyed. Here, as in play, his billows rose, and there he slumbered in repose. Here leapt the boisterous waters, high as mountains, menacing the sky, and wild infernal forms between the ridges of the waves were seen. They saw the billows rave and swell, and their sad spirits sank and fell, for ocean in their deep despair seemed boundless as the fields of air. Then noble Angad spake to cheer the vanners and dispel their fear. Faint not. Despair should never find admittance to a noble mind. Despair, a serpent's mortal bite, benumbs the hero's power and might. Then passed the weary night, and all assembled at their prince's call, and every lord of high estate was gathered round him for debate. Bright was the chieftain's glorious band round Angad on the ocean strand, as when the mighty storm gods meet round Indra on his golden seat. Then princely Angad looked on each, and thus began his prudent speech. What chief of all our host will leap 100 leagues across the deep? Who, O illustrious vanners, who will make Sugriva's promise true, and from our weight of fear set free the leaders of our band and me? To whom, O warriors, shall we owe a sweet release from pain and woe, and proud success, and happy lives with our dear children and our wives, again permitted by his grace to look with joy on Rama's face? And noble L a KSHM a letter 1E47, and our Lord the King, to our sweet homes restored. Thus to the gathered lords he spoke, but no reply the silence broke. Then with a sterner voice he cried, O chiefs, the nation's boast and pride, whom valor, strength, and power adorn, of most illustrious lineage born, where will you force away, and none your rapid course can stay. Now come, your several powers declare, and who this desperate leap will dare? Canto 65. The council. But none of all the host was found to clear the sea with desperate bound, though each, as Angad bade, declared his proper power and what he dared. 779. Then spake good Jambavan the sage, chief of them all for reverend age. I, Vanner chieftains, long ago limbs light to leap could likewise show, but now on frame and spirit weighs the burthen of my length of days. Still task like this I may not slight, when Rama and our king unite. So listen while I tell, O friends, what lingering strength mine age attends. If my poor leap may aught avail, of 90 leagues I will not fail. Far other strength in youth's fresh prime I boasted, in the olden time, when at Prahlada's 780 solemn rite, I circled in my rapid flight Lord Vish letter 1E47U, everlasting God, when through the universe he trod. But now my limbs are weak and old, my youth is fled, its fire is cold, and these exhausted nerves to strain in such a task were idle pain. Then Angad due obeisance paid, and to the chief his answer made. Then I, ye noble vanners, I myself the mighty leap will try, although perchance the power I lack to leap from Lanka's island back. Thus the impetuous chieftain cried, and Jambavan the sage replied, Whate'er thy power and might may be, this task, O prince, is not for thee. Kings go not forth themselves, but send the servants who their best attend. Thou art the darling and the boast, the honored lord of all the host. In thee the root, O Anged, lies of our appointed enterprise, and thee, on whom our hopes depend, our care must cherish and defend. Then Bali's noble son replied, Needs must I go, whate'er betide, for, if no chief this exploit dare, what waits us all save blank despair? Upon the ground again to lie in hopeless misery, fast and die. For not a hope of life I see if we neglect our king's decree. Then spoke the aged chief again, Nay, our attempt shall not be vain, for to the task will I incite a chieftain of sufficient might. Canto 66. Hanuman. The chieftain turned his glances where the legions sat in mute despair, and then to Hanuman, the best of Vanner lords, these words addressed. Why still and silent and apart, O hero of the dauntless heart? Thou keepest treasured in thy mind the laws that rule the Vanner kind, strong as our king Sugriva, brave as Rama's self to slay or save. Through every land thy praise is heard, famous as that illustrious bird, a acute sh letter 1e6d, a nemis son. 781, the king of every fowl that plies the wing. Oft have I seen the monarch sweep with sounding pinions o'er the deep, and in his mighty talons bear huge serpents struggling through the air. Thy arms, O hero, match in might the ample wings he spreads for flight, and thou with him mayest well compare in power to do, in heart to dare. Why, rich in wisdom, power, and skill, O hero, art thou lingering still? And Apsaras, 782, the fairest found of nymphs for heavenly charms renowned, sweet Punjakasthala, became a noble Vanner's wedded dame. Her heavenly title heard no more, Anjana was the name she bore. When, cursed by gods, from heaven she fell in Vanner form on earth to dwell, new-born in mortal shape the child of Kunjar monarch of the wild. In youthful beauty wondrous fair, a crown of flowers about her hair, in silken robes of richest dye, she roamed the hills that kissed the sky. Once in her tinted garments dressed, she stood upon the mountain crest. The god of wind beside her came, and breathed upon the lovely dame. And as he fanned her robe aside the wondrous beauty that he eyed in rounded lines of breast and limb and neck and shoulder ravished him. And captured by her peerless charms, he strained her in his amorous arms. Then to the eager god she cried in trembling accents, terrified, whose impious love has wronged a spouse so constant in her nuptial vows. He heard, and thus his answer made, Oh, be not troubled nor afraid, but trust, and thou shalt know ere long my love has done thee, sweet, no wrong so strong and brave and wise shall be the glorious child I give to thee. Might shall be his that naught can tire, and limbs to spring as springs his sire. Thus spoke the god, the conquered dame rejoiced in heart nor feared the shame. Down in a cave beneath the earth, the happy mother gave thee birth. Once o'er the summit of the wood, before thine eyes the new sun stood. Thou sprangest up in haste, to seize what seemed the fruitage of the trees. Up leapt the child, a wondrous bound, 300 leagues above the ground, and, though the angered day-god shot his fierce beams on him, feared him not. Then from the hand of Indra came a red bolt winged with wrath and flame. The child fell smitten on a rock. His cheek was shattered by the shock, named Hanuman, 783, thenceforth by all in memory of the fearful fall. The wandering wind-god saw thee lie with bleeding cheek and drooping eye, and stirred to anger by thy woe forbade each scented breeze to blow. The breath of all the worlds was stilled, and the sad gods with terror filled prayed to the wind, to calm the ire and soothe the sorrow of the sire. His fiery wrath no longer glowed, and Brahma's self the boon bestowed that in the brunt of battle none should slay with steel the wind-god's son. Lord Indra, sovereign of the skies, bent on the all his 1,000 eyes, and swore that ne'er the bolt which he hurls from the heaven should injure thee. 'Tis thine, O mighty chief, to share the wind-god's power, his son and heir. Sprung from that glorious father thou, and thou alone canst aid us now. This earth of yore, through all her climes, I circled 21 times, and gathered, as the gods decreed, great store of herbs from hill and mead, which, scattered o'er the troubled wave, the Amrit to the toilers gave. But now my days are well nigh told, my strength is gone, my limbs are old, and thou, the bravest and the best, art the sure hope of all the rest. Now, mighty chief, the task assay, thy matchless power and strength display. Rise up, O prince, our second king, and o'er the flood of oceans spring. so shall the glorious exploit vie with his who stepped through earth and sky. 784. He spoke, the younger chieftain heard, his soul to vigorous effort stirred, and stood before their joyous eyes dilated in gigantic size. Canto 67. Hanuman's speech. Soon as his stature they beheld, their fear and sorrow were dispelled, and joyous praises loud and long rang out from all the Vanner throng. On the great chief their eyes they bent in rapture and astonishment, as when his conquering foot he raised, the gods upon Nary, a letter 1E47, 785, gazed. He stood amid the joyous crowd, bent to the chiefs, and cried aloud, "The wind god, fire's eternal friend, whose blasts the mountain summits rend, with boundless force that none may stay takes where he lists his viewless way. Sprung from that glorious father, I in power and speed with him may vie, 1,000 times with airy leap can circle loftiest Meru's steep. With my fierce arms can stir the sea till from their bed the waters flee and rush at my command to drown this land with grove and tower and town. I through the fields of air can spring far swifter than the feathered king, and leap before him as he flies, on sounding pinions through the skies. I can pursue the Lord of Light, uprising from the eastern height, and reach him ere his course be sped with burning beams and garlanded. I will dry up the mighty main, shatter the rocks and rend the plain. O'er earth and ocean will I bound, and every flower that grows on ground and bloom of climbing plants shall show strewn on the ground, the way I go, bright as the lustrous path that lies athwart the region of the skies. 786. The Mathil lady will I find, thus speaks mine own prophetic mind, and cast in hideous ruin down the shattered walls of Lanka's town. Still on the chief in rapt surprise the Vanner legions bent their eyes, and thus again sage Jambavan addressed the glorious Hanuman. Son of the wind, thy promise cheers the Vanners' hearts and calms their fears, who, rescued from their dire distress, with prospering vows thy way will bless. The holy saints their favor lend, and all our chiefs the deed commend, urging thee forward on thy way. Arise then, and the task assay. Thou art our only refuge, we our lives and all depend on thee. Then sprang the wind god's son, the best of Vanners, on Mahendra's crest, and the great mountain rocked and swayed by that unusual weight dismayed, as reels an elephant beneath the lion's spring and rending teeth. The shady wood that crowned him shook, the trembling birds the boughs forsook, and ape and pard and lion fled from brake and lair disquieted. Book 5, 787. Canto 1. Hanuman's Leap. Thus Rav, a letter 1E47's foe, resolved to trace the captive to her hiding place, through airy pathways overhead, which heavenly minstrels visited. With straining nerve and eager brows, like some strong husband of the cows, in ready might he stood prepared for the bold task his soul has dared. O'er gem-like grass that flashed and glowed the Vanner like a lion strode. Roused by the thunder of his tread, the beasts to shady coverts fled. Tall trees he crushed or hurled aside, and every bird was terrified. Around him loveliest lilies grew, pale pink, and red and white, and blue, and tints of many a metal lent the light of varied ornament. Gandharvas, changing forms at will, and yakshas roamed the lovely hill, and countless serpent gods were seen where flowers and grass were fresh and green. As some resplendent serpent takes his pastime in the best of lakes, so on the mountain's woody height the Vanner wandered with delight. Then, standing on the flowery sod, he paid his vows to saint and god. Svayambhu, 788, and the sun he prayed, and the swift wind to lend him aid, and Indra, sovereign of the skies, to bless his hardy enterprise. Then once again the chief addressed the Vanners from the mountain crest. Swift as a shaft from Rama's bow, to Rav, a letter 1E47's city will I go, and if she be not there will fly and seek the lady in the sky, or, if in heaven she be not found, will hither bring the giant bound. He ceased, and mustering his might sprang downward from the mountain height, while, shattered by each mighty limb, the trees unrooted followed him. The shadow on the ocean cast by his vast form, as on he passed, flew like a ship before the gale when the strong breeze has filled the sail. And where his course the Vanner held the sea beneath him raged and swelled. Then gods and all the heavenly train poured flowerets down in gentle rain, their voices glad Gandharvas raised, and saints in heaven the Vanner praised. Fain would the sea his succor lend, and Raghu's noble son befriend. He, moved by zeal for Rama's sake, the hill Menaka, 789, thus bespake. O strong Menaka, heaven's decree in days of old appointed thee to be the Asur's bar, and keep the rebels in the lowest deep. Thou guardest those whom heaven has cursed lest from their prison house they burst, and standest by the gates of hell their limitary sentinel. To thee is given the power to spread or spring above thy watery bed. Now, best of noble mountains, rise and do the thing that I advise. E'en now above thy buried crest flies mighty Hanuman, the best of Vanners, moved for Rama's sake a wondrous deed to undertake. Lift up thy head that he may stay, and rest him on his weary way. He heard, and from his watery shroud, as bursts the sun from autumn cloud, rose swifty, crowned with plant and tree, and stood above the foamy sea. 790, there with his lofty peaks upraised bright as 100 suns he blazed, and crest and crag of burnished gold flashed on the flood that round him rolled. The Vanner thought the mountain rose a hostile bar to interpose, and like a wind-swept cloud, o'erthrew the glittering mountain as he flew. Then from the falling hill rang out a warning voice and joyful shout. Again he raised him high in air to meet the flying Vanner there, and standing on his topmost peak in human form began to speak. 791, best of the Vanners, noblest line a mighty task, O chief, is thine. Here for a while, I pray thee, light and rest upon the breezy height. A prince of Raghu's line was he who gave his glory to the sea. 792, who now to Rama's envoy shows high honor for the debt he owes. He bade me lift my buried head, uprising from my watery bed, and woo the Vanner chief to rest a moment on my glittering crest. Refresh thy weary limbs, and eat my mountain fruits, for they are sweet. I too, O chieftain, know thee well 3 worlds thy famous virtues tell, and none, I ween, with thee may vie who spring impetuous through the sky. To every guest, though mean and low, the wise respect and honor show, and how shall I neglect thee, how slight the great guest so near me now? Son of the wind, tease thine to share the might of him who shakes the air and, for he loves his offspring, he is honored when I honor thee. Of yore, when Creta's age, 793, was new, the little hills and mountains flew where they listed, borne on wings more rapid than the feathered kings. 794, but mighty terror came on all the gods and saints who feared their fall. And Indra in his anger rent their pinions with the bolts he sent. When in his ruthless fury he leveled his flashing bolt at me, the great-souled wind inclined to save, and laid me 'neath the ocean's wave. Thus by the favor of the sire I kept my cherished wings entire, and for this deed of kindness done I honor thee his noble son. O come, thy weary limbs relieve, and honor due from me receive. I may not rest, the Vanner cried, I must not stay or turn aside. Yet pleased am I, thou noblest hill, and as the deed accept thy will. Thus as he spoke he lightly pressed with his broad hand the mountain's crest, then bounded upward to the height of heaven, rejoicing in his might, and through the fields of boundless blue, the pathway of his father flew. Gods, saints, and heavenly bards beheld that flight that none had paralleled. Then to the Nagas, mother, 795, came and thus addressed the sun-bright dame. See, Hanuman with venturous leap would spring across the mighty deep. A Vanner prince, the wind god's seed, come, Surasa, his course impede. In Raksha's form thy shape disguise, terrific, like a hill in size. Let thy red eyes with fury glow, and high as heaven thy body grow. With fearful tusks the chief defy, that we his power and strength may try. He will with guile thy hold elude, or own thy might, by thee subdued. Pleased with the grateful honors paid, the godlike dame their words obeyed. Clad in a shape of terror, she sprang from the middle of the sea, and with fierce accents that appalled all creatures, to the Vanner called. Come, Prince of Vanners, doomed to be my food this day by heaven's decree. Such boon from ages long ago, to Brahma's favoring will I owe. She ceased, and Hanuman replied, by shape and threat unterrified. Brave Rama with his Maithil spouse lodged in the shade of D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a KS bows. Thence Ravan king of giants stole Sítá the joy of Rama's soul. By Rama's high behest to her eye go a willing messenger, and never shouldst them hinder one who toils for Dasaratha's son. First captive Sítá will I see, and him who sent and waits for me, then come and to thy will submit, yea, by my truth I promise it. Nay, hope not thus thy life to save, not such the boon that Brahma gave. Enter my mouth, was her reply, then forward on thy journey high. 796. Stretch, wider stretch thy jaws, exclaimed the Vanner chief, to ire inflamed and, as the Rakshas near him drew 10 leagues in height his stature grew. Then straight, her threatening jaws between, a gulf of 20 leagues was seen. To 50 leagues he waxed, and still her mouth grew wider at her will. Then smaller than a thumb became, shrunk by his power, the Vanner's frame. 797, he leaped within, and turning round sprang through the portal at a bound. Then hung in air a moment, while he thus addressed her with a smile. O Daksha's child, 798, farewell at last. For I within thy mouth have passed. Thou hast the gift of Brahma's grace, I go, the Maithil queen to trace. Then, to her former shape restored, she thus addressed the Vanner lord. Then forward to the task, and may success and joy attend thy way. Go, and the rescued lady bring in triumph to her lord and king. Then hosts of spirits, as they gazed the daring of the Vanner praised. Through the broad fields of ether, fast GARU letter 1E0DS royal self, he passed, the region of the cloud and rain, loved by the gay Gandharva train, where mid the birds that came and went shone Indra's glorious bow unbent, and like a host of wandering stars flashed the high gods, celestial cars. Fierce Sinhika, 799, who joyed in ill and changed her form to work her will, disgrayed him on his airy way, and marked the Vanner for her prey. This day at length, the demon cried, my hunger shall be satisfied, and at his passing shadow caught delighted with the cheering thought. The Vanner felt the power that stayed and held him as she grasped his shade, like some tall ship upon the main that struggles with the wind in vain. Below above, his eye he bent and scanned the sea and firmament. High from the briny deep upreared the monster's hideous form appeared. Sugrava's tale, he cried, is true, this is the demon dire to view of whom the Vanner monarch told, whose grasp a passing shade can hold. Then, as a cloud in rain time grows his form, dilating, swelled and rose. Wide as the space from heaven to hell her jaws, she opened with a yell, and rushed upon her fancied prey with cloud-like roar to seize and slay. The Vanner swift as thought compressed his borrowed bulk of limb and chest, and stood with one quick bound inside the monstrous mouth she opened wide. Hid like the moon, when Rahu draws the orb within his ravening jaws. Within that ample cavern pent the demon's form he tore and rent, and from the mangled carcass freed, came forth again with thought-like speed. 800, thus with his skill the fiend he slew, then to his wonted stature grew. The spirits saw the demon die, and hailed the Vanner from the sky. Well hast thou fought a wondrous fight, nor spared the fiend's terrific might on. Perform the blameless deed, and in thine every wish succeed. Ne'er can they fail in whom combine such valor, thought, and skill as thine. Pleased with their praises as they sang, again through fields of air he sprang, and now, his travail well-nigh done, the distant shore was almost won. Before him on the margent stood in long dark line a waving wood, and the fair island, bright and green with flowers and trees, was clearly seen, and every babbling brook that gave her lord the sea a tribute wave. He lighted down on Lamba's peak which tinted metals stain and streak, and looked where Lanka's splendid town shone on the mountain like a crown. Canto 2. Lanka. The glorious sight awhile he viewed, then to the town his way pursued. Around the Vanner as he went breathed from the wood delicious scent, and the soft grass beneath his feet with gem-like flowers was bright and sweet. Still as the Vanner nearer, drew more clearly rose the town to view. The palm her fan-like leaves displayed, Priyalas, 801, lent their pleasant shade, and mid the lower greenery far conspicuous rose the Kavadar. 802 a thousand trees mid flowers that glowed hung down their fruits delicious load. 803, and in their crests that rocked and swayed sweet birds delightful music made. And there were pleasant pools whereon the glories of the lotus shone, and gleams of sparkling fountains, stirred by many a joyous water-bird. Around, in lovely gardens grew blooms sweet of scent and bright of hue, and Lanka, seat of Rav, a letter 1E47's sway, before the wondering Vanner lay, with stately domes and turrets tall, encircled by a golden wall, and moats whose waters were aglow with lily blossoms bright below, for Sítá's sake defended well with bolt and bar and sentinel, and Rakshases who roamed in bands with ready bows in eager hands. He saw the stately mansions rise like pale-hued clouds in autumn skies, where noble streets were broad and bright, and banners waved on every height. Her gates were glorious to behold, rich with the shine of burnished gold, a lovely city planned and decked by heaven's creative architect. 804, fairest of earthly cities meet to be the gods' celestial seat. The Vanner by the northern gate thus in his heart began debate. Our mightiest host would strive in vain to take this city on the main. A city that may well defy the chosen warriors of the sky. A city never to be won by the arm of Raghu's son. Here is no hope by guile to win the hostile hearts of those within. 'Twere vain to war, or bribe, or sow dissension mid the Vanner foe. But now my search must I pursue until the Maythil queen I view, and, when I find the captive dame, make victory mine only aim. But if I wear my present shape, how shall I enter and escape the Rakshas troops, their guards and spies, and sleepless watch of cruel eyes? The fiends of giant race who hold this mighty town are strong and bold, and I must labor to elude the fiercely watchful multitude. I in a shape to mock their sight must steal within the town by night, blind with my art the demon's eyes, and thus achieve my enterprise. How may I see myself unseen of the fierce king, the captive queen, and meet her in some lonely place, with none beside her, face to face? When the bright sun had left the skies, the Vanner dwarfed his mighty size, and in the straightest bounds restrained, the bigness of a cat retained. 805, then, when the moon's soft light was spread, within the city's walls he sped. Canto 3. The guardian goddess. There from the circling rampart's height he gazed upon the wondrous sight, broad gates with burnished gold displayed, and courts with turquoises inlaid, with gleaming silver, gems, and rows of crystal stairs and porticos. In semblance of a Raksha's dame, the city's guardian goddess came, for she with glances sure and keen the entrance of a foe had seen, and thus with fury in her eye addressed him with an angry cry, "Who art thou? What has led thee, say, within these walls to find thy way? Thou mayst not enter here in spite of Rav, a letter 1E47 and his warriors' might. And who art thou?" The Vanner cried, by form and frown unterrified. "Why hast thou met me by the gate, and chid me thus infuriate?" He ceased, and Langka made reply. "The guardian of the town am I, who watch for ever to fulfill my lord the Raksha's monarch's will. But thou shalt fall this hour, and deep shall be thy never-ending sleep." Again he spake, "In spite of thee this golden city will I see, her gates and towers, and all the pride of street and square from side to side, and freely wander where I please amid her groves of flowering trees, on all her beauties sate mine eye. Then, as I came, will homeward hie." Swift with an angry roar, she smote with her huge hand the Vanner's throat. The smitten Vanner, rage-impelled, with fist upraised the monster felled, but quick repented, stirred with shame and pity for a vanquished dame, when with her senses troubled, weak with terror, thus she strove to speak. "O spare me thou whose arm is strong, O spare me and forgive the wrong. The brave that law will ne'er transgress, that spares a woman's helplessness. Hear, best of Vanners, brave and bold, what Brahma's self of yore foretold. Beware," he said, "the fatal hour when thou shalt own a Vanner's power. Then is the giant's day of fear, for terror and defeat are near. Now, Vanner chief, o'ercome by thee, I on the truth of heaven's decree. For Sítá's sake will ruin fall on Rav, a letter 1E47, and his town and all." Canto 4. Within the city. The guardian goddess thus subdued, the Vanner chief his way pursued, and reached the broad imperial street, where fresh-blown flowers were bright and sweet. The city seemed a fairer sky, where cloud-like houses rose on high, whence the soft sound of tabors came through many a latticed window frame, and ever and anon rang out the merry laugh and joyous shout. From house to house, the Vanner went and marked each varied ornament, where leaves and blossoms deftly strung about the crystal columns hung. Then soft and full and sweet and clear the song of women charmed his ear, and blending with their dulcet tones, their anklets chime and tinkling zones. He heard the Rakshas minstrel sing the praises of their matchless king, and softly through the evening air came murmurings of text and prayer. Here moved a priest with tonsured head, and there an eager envoy sped, mid crowds with hair in matted twine clothed in the skins of deer and kine, whose only arms, which none might blame, were blades of grass and holy flame. 806. Their savage warriors roamed in bands with clubs and maces in their hands, some dwarfish forms, some huge of size, with single ears and single eyes. Some shone in glittering mail arrayed with bow and mace and flashing blade, fiends of all shapes and every hue, some fierce and foul, some fair to view. He saw the grisly legions wait in strictest watch at Rav, a letter 1E47's gate, whose palace on the mountain crest rose proudly towering o'er the rest, fenced with high ramparts from the foe, and lotus-covered moats below. But Hanuman, unhindered, found quick passage through the guarded bound, mid elephants of noblest breed, and gilded car and neighing steed. Canto 6. The court. The palace gates were guarded well by many a Rakshas sentinel, and far within, concealed from view, were dames and female retinue for charm of form and face renowned, whose tinkling armlets made a sound, clashed by the wearers in their glee-like music of a distant sea. The hall beyond the palace gate, rich with each badge of royal state, where lines of noble courtiers stood, showed like a lion-guarded wood. There the wild music rose and fell of drum and tabor, and of shell, through chambers at each holy tide by solemn worship sanctified. Through grove and garden, undismayed from house to house the vanner strayed, and still his wondering glances bent on terrace, dome, and battlement. Then with a light and rapid tread prahestas, 807 home he visited, and kumbhak letter 1E47  808 courtyard where a cloudy pile rose high in air and, wandering o'er the hill, explored the garden of each Raksha's lord. Each court and grove he wandered through, then nigh to Rav, a letter 1E47's palace drew. She-demons watched it foul of face, each armed with sword and spear and mace, and warrior fiends of every hue, a strange and fearful retinue. Their elephants in many a row, the terror of the stricken foe. Huge Aravat, 809, deftly trained in battlefields, stood ready chained. Fair litters on the ground were set adorned with gems and golden net. Gay bloomy creepers clothed the walls, green bowers were there and picture halls, and chambers made for soft delight. Broad banners waved on every height. And from the roof like Mandar's hill, the peacock's cry came loud and shrill. 810. Canto 7. Ravan's palace. He passed within the walls, and gazed on gems and gold that round him blazed, and many a latticed window bright with turkeys and with lazulite. Through porch and anterooms he passed each richer, fairer than the last, and spacious halls where lances lay, and bows and shells, in fair array. A glorious house that matched in show all paradise displayed below. Upon the polished floor were spread fresh buds and blossoms white and red, and women shone, a lovely crowd, as lightning flashes through a cloud. A palace splendid as the sky which moon and planets glorify, like earth whose towering hills unfold their zones and streaks of glittering gold, where waving on the mountain brows the tall trees bend their laden boughs, and every bough and tender spray with a bright load of bloom is gay, and every flower the breeze has bent fills all the region with its scent. Near the tall palace pale of hue shone lovely lakes where lilies blew, and lotuses with flower and bud gleamed on the bosom of the flood. There shone with gems that flashed afar the marvel of the flower named. 811 car, mid wondrous dwellings, still confessed supreme and nobler than the rest. Thereon with wondrous art designed were turkeys birds of varied kind. And many a sculptured serpent rolled his twisted coil in burnished gold. And steeds were there of noblest form with flying feet as fleet as storm. And elephants with deftest skill stood sculptured by a silver rill, each bearing on his trunk a wreath of lilies from the flood beneath. Their Lakshmi, 812, beauty, heavenly queen, wrought by the artist's skill, was seen beside a flower-clad pool to stand holding a lotus in her hand. Canto 8. The enchanted car. There gleamed the car with wealth untold of precious gems and burnished gold, nor could the wind god's son withdraw his rapt gaze from the sight he saw. By Visvakarma's 813 self proclaimed the noblest work his hand had framed. Uplifted in the air, it glowed bright as the sun's diurnal road. The eye might scan the wondrous frame and vainly seek one spot to blame. So fine was every part and fair with gems inlaid with lavish care. No precious stones so rich adorn the cars wherein the gods are born, prize of the all-resistless might that sprang from pain and penance right. 814. Obedient to the masters, will it moved o'er wood and towering hill, a glorious marvel, well designed by Visvakarma's artist mind, adorned with every fair device that decks the cars of paradise. Swift moving as the master chose, it flew through air or sank or rose. 815. And in its fleetness left behind the fury of the rushing wind, meet mansion for the good and great, the holy, wise, and fortunate. Throughout the chariot's vast extent were chambers wide and excellent, all pure and lovely to the eyes as moonlight shed from cloudless skies. Fierce goblins, rovers of the night who cleft the clouds with swiftest flight in countless hosts that chariot drew, with earrings clashing as they flew. Canto 9. The lady's bower. Where stately mansions rose around, a palace fairer still he found, whose royal height and splendor showed where Rav a letter 147's self, the king, abode. A chosen band with bow and sword guarded the palace of their lord, where Rakshas dames of noble race, and many a princess fair of face, whom Rav a letter 147's arm had torn away from vanquished kings in slumber lay. Their jeweled arches, high o'erhead and ever-changing luster, shed from ruby, pearl, and every gem on golden pillars under them. Delicious came the tempered air that breathed a heavenly summer there, stealing through bloomy trees that bore each pleasant fruit in endless store. No check was there from jealous guard, no door was fast, no portal barred, only a sweet air breath to meet the stranger, as a host should greet a wanderer of his kith and kin and woo his weary steps within. He stood within a spacious hall with fretted roof and painted wall. The giant Rav, a letter 147's boast and pride, loved even as a lovely bride. 'Twere long to tell each marvel there, the crystal floor, the jeweled stair, the gold, the silver, and the shine of chrysolite and almandine. There breathed the fairest blooms of spring, there flashed the proud swan's silver wing, the splendor of whose feathers broke through fragrant wreaths of aloe smoke. "'Tis Indra's heaven," the vanner cried, gazing in joy from side to side. "The home of all the gods is this, the mansion of eternal bliss." There were the softest carpets spread, delightful to the sight and tread, where many a lovely woman lay o'ercome by sleep, fatigued with play. The wine no longer cheered the feast, the sound of revelry had ceased. The tinkling feet no longer stirred, no chiming of a zone was heard. So when each bird has sought her nest, and swans are mute and wild bees rest, sleep the fair lilies on the lake till the sun's kiss shall bid them wake. Like the calm field of winter's sky which stars unnumbered glorify, so shone and glowed the sumptuous room with living stars that chase the gloom. "These are the stars," the chieftain cried, "in autumn nights that earthward glide, in brighter forms to reappear and shine in matchless luster here." With wondering eyes awhile he viewed each graceful form and attitude. One lady's head was backward thrown, bare was her arm and loose her zone. The garland that her brow had graced hung closely round another's waist. Here gleamed two little feet, all bare of anklets that had sparkled there. Here lay a queenly dame at rest, in all her glorious garments dressed. There slept another whose small hand had loosened every tie and band. In careless grace, another lay with gems and jewels cast away. Like a young creeper when the tread of the wild elephant has spread confusion and destruction round, and cast it flowerless to the ground. Here lay a slumberer still as death, save only that her balmy breath raised ever and anon the lace that floated o'er her sleeping face. There, sunk in sleep, an amorous maid her sweet head on a mirror laid, like a fair lily bending till her petals rest upon the rill. Another black-eyed damsel pressed her lute upon her heaving breast, as though her loving arms were twined round him for whom her bosom pined. Another pretty sleeper round a silver vase her arms had wound, that seemed so fresh and fair, and young a wreath of flowers that o'er it hung. In sweet disorder, lay a throng weary of dance and play and song, where heedless girls had sunk to rest one pillowed on another's breast, her tender cheek half seen beneath bed roses of the falling wreath, the while her long soft hair concealed the beauties that her friend revealed. With limbs at random interlaced round arm and leg, and throat and waist, that wreath of women lay asleep like blossoms in a careless heap. Canto 10. Raven asleep. A parted dais of crystal rose, with couches spread for soft repose, adorned with gold and gems of price, meet for the halls of paradise. A canopy was o'er them spread pale as the light the moonbeams shed, and female figures, 816, deftly planned, the faces of the sleepers fanned, there on a splendid couch, asleep on softest skins of deer and sheep. Dark as a cloud that dims the day, the monarch of the giants lay, perfumed with sandal's precious scent and gay with golden ornament. His fiery eyes in slumber closed. In glittering robes, the king reposed like Mandar's mighty hill asleep, with flowery trees that clothe his steep. Near and more near the Vanner, the monarch of the fiends to view, and saw the giant stretched supine, fatigued with play and drunk with wine. While, shaking all the monstrous frame, his breath like hissing serpents came. With gold and glittering bracelets, gay his mighty arms extended lay huge, as the towering shafts that bear the flag of Indra high in air. Scars by Aravat's tusk impressed showed red upon his shaggy breast, and on his shoulders were displayed the dints the thunderbolt had made. 817. The spouses of the giant king around their lord were slumbering, and gay with sparkling earrings, shone fair as the moon to look upon. There by her husband's side was seen Mandodari, the favorite queen, the beauty of whose youthful face beamed a soft glory through the place. The Vanner marked the dame more fair than all the royal ladies there, and thought, "These rarest beauties speak the matchless dame I come to seek. Peerless in grace and splendor, she the Maythil queen must surely be." Canto 11. The banquet hall. But soon the baseless thought was spurned, and longing hope again returned. No, Rama's wife is none of these, no careless dame that lives at ease. Her widowed heart has ceased to care for dress and sleep and dainty fare. She near a lover ne'er would lie, though Indra wooed her from the sky. Her own, her only lord, whom none can match in heaven, is Raghu's son. Then to the banquet hall intent on strictest search his steps he bent. He passed within the door, and found fair women sleeping on the ground, where, wearied with the song, perchance, the merry game, the wanton dance, each girl with wine and sleep oppressed had sunk her drooping head to rest. That spacious hall from side to side with noblest fare was well supplied, there quarters of the boar, and here roast of the buffalo and deer, there on gold plate, untouched as yet the peacock and the hen were set. There deftly mixed with salt and curd was meat of many a beast and bird, of kid and porcupine and hare, and dainties of the sea and air. Their rod of gold, ablaze with shine of precious stones, were cups of wine. Through court and bower and banquet hall the Vanner passed and viewed them all, from end to end in every spot, for Sítá searched, but found her not. Canto 12. The search renewed. Again the Vanner chief began each chamber, bower, and hall to scan. In vain he found not her he sought, and pondered thus in bitter thought. Ah me, the Maythil queen is slain she, ever true and free from stain, the fiend's entreaty has denied, and by his cruel hand has died. Or has she sunk, by terror killed, when first she saw the palace filled with female monsters evil meaned, who wait upon the robber fiend. No battle fought, no might displayed. In vain this anxious search is made, nor shall my steps, made slow by shame, because I failed to find the dame, back to our lord the king be bent, for he is swift to punishment. In every bower my feet have been, the dames of Rav a letter 1E47 have I seen, but Rama's spouse I seek in vain, and all my toil is fruitless pain. How shall I meet the Vanner band I left upon the ocean strand? How, when they bid me speak, proclaim these tidings of defeat and shame? How shall I look on Anged's eye? What words will Jambavan reply? Yet dauntless hearts will never fail to win success though foes assail, and I this sorrow will subdue and search the palace through and through, exploring with my cautious tread each spot as yet unvisited. Again he turned him to explore each chamber, hall, and corridor, and arbor bright with scented bloom, and lodge and cell and picture room. With eager eye and noiseless feet, he passed through many a cool retreat where women lay in slumber drowned. But Sítá still was nowhere found. Canto 13. Despair and Hope. Then rapid, as the lightning's flame from Rav, a letter 1E47 halls the vanner came. Each lingering hope was cold and dead, and thus within his heart he said, Alas, my fruitless search is done, long have I toiled for Raghu's son, and yet with all my care have seen no traces of the ravished queen. It may be, while the giant through the lone air with his captive flew, the Maithil lady, tender-souled, slipped struggling from the robber's hold, and the wild sea is rolling now o'er Sítá of the beauteous brow. Or did she perish of alarm, when circled by the monster's arm? Or crushed, unable to withstand the pressure of that monstrous hand? Or when she spurned his suit with scorn, her tender limbs were rent and torn? And she, her virtue unsubdued, was slaughtered for the giant's food. Shall I to Raghu's son relate his well-beloved consort's fate? My crime the same if I reveal the mournful story or conceal. If with no happier tale to tell I seek our mountain citadel, how shall I face our lord the king and meet his angry questioning? How shall I greet my friends and brook the muttered taunt, the scornful look? How to the son of Raghu go and kill him with my tale of woe? For sure the mournful tale I bear will strike him dead with wild despair. And Lakshman, a letter 1E47 ever fond and true, will, undivided, perish too. Burrit will learn his brother's fate, and die of grief disconsolate, and sad Satrugna with a cry of anguish on his corpse will die. Our King Sugriva, ever found true to each bond and honor bound, will mourn the pledge he vainly gave, and die with him he could not save. Then Ruma, his devoted wife, for her dead lord will leave her life, and Tara, widowed and forlorn, will die in anguish, sorrow-worn. On Anged too, the blow will fall, killing the hope and joy of all. The ruin of their prince and king the vanners, souls with woe will wring. And each, overwhelmed with dark despair, will beat his head and rend his hair. Each, graced and honored long, will miss his careless life of easy bliss. In happy troops will play no more on breezy rock and shady shore, but with his darling wife and child will seek the mountain top, and wild with hopeless desolation, throw himself, his wife, and babe below. Ah no, unless the dame I find I ne'er will meet my vanner kind. Here rather in some distant dell a lonely hermit will I dwell, where roots and berries will supply my humble wants, until I die, or on the shore will raise a pyre and perish in the kindled fire. Or I will strictly fast until with slow decay my life I kill, and ravening dogs and birds of air the limbs of Hanuman shall tear. Here will I die, but never bring destruction on my race and king. But still unsearched one grove I see, with many a bright Asoka tree. There will I enter in, and through the tangled shade my search renew. Be glory to the host on high, the sun and moon who light the sky, the Vasus 818 and the Maruts 819, train Ayodhyas 820 and the Asvins 821, twain. So may I win success, and bring the lady back with triumphing. Canto 14. The Asoka Grove. He cleared the barrier at a bound. He stood within the pleasant ground, and with delighted eyes surveyed the climbing plants and varied shade. He saw unnumbered trees unfold the treasures of their pendant gold, as, searching for the Maithil queen, he strayed through alleys soft and green, and when a spray he bent or broke some little bird that slept awoke. Whene'er the breeze of morning blew, where a startled peacock flew, the gaily colored branches shed their flowery rain upon his head that clung around the vanner till he seemed a blossom-covered hill. 822. The earth, on whose fair bosom lay the flowers that fell from every spray, was glorious as a lovely maid in all her brightest robes arrayed. He saw the breath of morning shake the lilies on the rippling lake, whose waves a pleasant lapping made on crystal steps with gems inlaid. Then roaming through the enchanted ground, a pleasant hill the vanner found, and grottos in the living stone with grass and flowery trees o'ergrown. Through rocks and boughs, a brawling rill leapt from the bosom of the hill, like a proud beauty when she flies from her love's arms with angry eyes. He clomb a tree that near him grew, and leafy shade around him threw. Hence, thought the vanner, shall I see the Maithil dame, if here she be these lovely trees, This cool retreat will surely tempt her wandering feet. Here the sad queen will roam apart and dream of Rama in her heart. Canto 15. Sítá. Fair as Kailasa white with snow, he saw a palace flash and glow, a crystal pavement gem inlaid, and coral steps and colonnade, and glittering towers that kissed the skies, whose dazzling splendor charmed his eyes. Their pallid, with neglected dress, watched close by fiend and giantess, her sweet face thin with constant flow of tears, with fasting and with woe, pale as the young moon's crescent when the first faint light returns to men. Dim as the flame when clouds of smoke the latent glory hide and choke. Like ROHI letter 1E47, I acute the queen of stars oppressed by the red planet Mars. From her dear friends and husband torn amid the cruel fiends, forlorn, who fierce-eyed watch around her kept, a tender woman sat and wept. Her sobs, her sighs, her mournful mien, her glorious eyes proclaimed the queen. This is she, the Vanner cried. Fair as the moon and lotus-eyed, I saw the giant Ravan bear a captive through the fields of air. Such was the beauty of the dame, her form, her lips, her eyes the same. This peerless queen whom I behold is Rama's wife, with limbs of gold. Best of the sons of men is he, and worthy of her lord is she. Canto 16. Hanuman's Lament. Then all his thoughts on Sítá bent, the Vanner chieftain made lament. The queen to Rama's soul endeared, by LAKSHM a letter 1E47's pious heart revered, lies here, for none may strive with fate, a captive, sad and desolate. The brothers might full well she knows, and bravely bears the storm of woes as swelling Ganga in the rains the rush of every flood sustains. Her lord for her, fierce Bali slew Viradha's monstrous might o'erthrew, for her the 14,000 slain in Janasthan bedewed the plain. And if for her Ikshvaku's son destroyed the world, 'twere nobly done. This is she, so far renowned, who sprang from out the furrowed ground. 823, child of the high-souled king whose sway the men of Mithila obey, the glorious lady wooed and won by Dasaratha's noblest son, and now these sad eyes look on her mid-hostile fiends a prisoner. From home and every bliss she fled by wifely love and duty led, and heedless of a wanderer's woes, a life in lonely forests chose. This is she so fair of mold, whose limbs are bright as burnished gold, whose voice was ever soft and mild, who sweetly spoke and sweetly smiled. Oh, what is Rama's misery! How he longs to see his darling now, pining for one of her fond looks, as one athirst for water brooks. Absorbed in woe the lady sees no Rakshas guard, no blooming trees. Her eyes are with her thoughts, and they are fixed on Rama far away. Canto 17. Sítá's guard. His pitying eyes with tears bedewed, the weeping queen again he viewed, and saw around the prisoner stand her demon guard, a fearful band. Some earless, some with ears that hung low as their feet and loosely swung, some fierce with single ears and eyes, some dwarfish, some of monstrous size, some with their dark necks long and thin with hair upon the knotty skin, some with wild locks, some bald and bare, some covered o'er with bristly hair, some tall and straight, some bowed and bent with every foul disfigurement, all black and fierce with eyes of fire, ruthless and stern and swift to ire, some with the jackal's jaw and nose, some faced like boars and buffaloes, some with the heads of goats and kine, of elephants and dogs and swine, with lions, lips and horses' brows, they walked with feet of mules and cows. Swords, maces, clubs, and spears they bore in hideous hands that reeked with gore, and never sated, turned afresh to bowls of wine and piles of flesh. Such were the awful guards who stood round Sítá in that lovely wood, while in her lonely sorrow she wept sadly 'neath a spreading tree. He watched the spouse of Rama there regardless of her tangled hair, her jewels stripped from neck and limb, decked only with her love of him. Canto 18. Ravan. While from his shelter in the boughs the Vanner looked on Rama's spouse, he heard the gathered giants raise the solemn hymn of prayer and praise. Priests skilled in rite and ritual, who the Vedas and their branches, 824 knew. Then, as loud strains of music broke his sleep, the giant monarch woke. Swift to his heart, the thought returned of the fair queen for whom he burned, nor could the amorous fiend control the passion that absorbed his soul. In all his brightest garb arrayed, he hastened to that lovely shade, where glowed each choicest flower and fruit, and the sweet birds were never mute, and tall deer bent their heads to drink on the fair streamlet's grassy brink. Near that Asoka grove he drew 100 dames his retinue, like Indra, with the 1,000 eyes girt with the beauties of the skies. Some walked beside their lord to hold the chowries, fans, and lamps of gold, and others purest water bore in golden urns and paced before. Some carried, piled on golden plates, delicious food of dainty cates, some wine in massive bowls whereon the fairest gems resplendent shone. Some by the monarch's side displayed, wrought like a swan, a silken shade, another beauty walked behind, the scepter to her care assigned. Around the monarch gleamed the crowd as lightnings flash about a cloud, and each made music as she went with zone and tinkling ornament. Attended thus in royal state, the monarch reached the garden gate, while gold and silver torches, fed with scented oil, a soft light shed. 825 He, while the flame of fierce desire burnt in his eyes like kindled fire, seemed love incarnate in his pride, his bow and arrows laid aside. 826 His robe, from spot and blemish free like omrit foamy from the sea. 827 Hung down in many a loosened fold enwrought with flowers and bright with gold. The vanner from his station viewed, amazed, the wondrous multitude, where, in the center of that ring of noblest women, stood the king, as stands the full moon fair to view, girt by his starry retinue. Canto 19. Sita's fear. Then o'er the lady's soul and frame a sudden fear and trembling came, when, glowing in his youthful pride, she saw the monarch by her side. Silent she sat, her eyes depressed, her soft arms folded o'er her breast, and all she could, her beauties screened from the bold gazes of the fiend. There where the wild she-demons kept their watch around, she sighed and wept. Then, like a severed bough, she lay prone on the bare earth in dismay, the while her thoughts on love's fleet wings flew to her lord, the best of kings. She fell upon the ground, and there lay struggling with her wild despair, sad as a lady born again to misery and woe and pain, now doomed to grief and low estate, once noble, fair, and delicate, like faded light of holy lore, like hope when all her dreams are o'er, like ruin power and rank debased, like majesty of kings disgraced, like worship foiled by erring slips, the moon that labors in eclipse, a pool with all her lilies dead, an army when its king has fled. So sad and helpless, wan and worn, she lay among the fiends forlorn. Canto 20. Raven's wooing. With amorous look and soft address the fiend began his suit to press. Why wouldst thou, lady lotus-eyed, from my fond glance those beauties hide? Mine eager suit no more repel, but love me, for I love thee well. Dismiss, sweet dame, dismiss thy fear, no giant and no man is near. Ours is the right by force to seize what dames soe'er our fancy please. 828 But I with rude hands will not touch a lady whom I love so much. Fear not, dear queen, no fear is nigh, come, on thy lover's love rely, some little sign of favor show, nor lie enamored of thy woe. Those limbs upon that cold earth laid, those tresses twined in single braid. 829 The fast and woe that wear thy frame beseem not thee, O beauteous dame. For thee the fairest wreaths were meant, the sandal and the aloes scent, rich ornaments and pearls of price, and vesture meet for paradise. With dainty cates shouldst thou be fed, and rest upon a sumptuous bed. And festive joys to thee belong, the music, and the dance and song. Rise, pearl of women, rise and deck with gems and chains thine arms and neck. Shall not the dame I love be seen in vesture worthy of a queen? Methinks when thy sweet form was made his hand the wise Creator stayed, for nevermore did he design a beauty meet to rival thine. Come, let us love while yet we may, for youth will fly and charms decay. Come, cast thy grief and fear aside, and be my love, my chosen bride. The gems and jewels that my hand has reft from every plundered land, to thee I give them all this day, and at thy feet my kingdom lay. The broad rich earth will I o'errun, and leave no town unconquered, none then of the whole an offering make to Janak, 830 dear, for thy sweet sake. In all the world no power, I see of God or man, can strive with me. Of old the gods and Asurs set in terrible array I met, their scattered hosts to earth I beat, and trod their flags beneath my feet. Come, taste of bliss and drink thy fill, and rule the slave who serves thy will. Think not of wretched Rama, he is less than nothing now to thee. Stripped of his glory, poor, dethroned, a wanderer by his friends disowned, on the cold earth he lays his head, or is with toil and misery dead. And if perchance he lingers yet, his eyes on thee shall ne'er be set. Could he, that mighty monarch, who was named HIR a letter 1E47Y a K a execute IPU, could he who wore the garb of gold win glory back from Indra's hold? 831 O Lady of the lovely smile, whose eyes the sternest heart beguile, in all thy radiant beauty dressed my heart and soul thou ravishest. What though thy robe is soiled and worn, and no bright gems thy limbs adorn, thou unadorned art dearer far than all my loveliest consorts are. My royal home is bright and fair, 1,000 beauties meet me there, but come, my glorious love, and be the queen of all those dames and me. Canto 21. Sítá's scorn. She thought upon her lord and sighed, and thus in gentle tones replied, Beseems thee not, O king, to woo a matron, to her husband true. Thus vainly one might hope by sin, and evil deeds success to win. Shall I so highly born, disgrace my husband's house, my royal race? Shall I, a true and loyal dame, defile my soul with deed of shame? Then on the king her back she turned, and answered thus the prayer she spurned. Turn, RAV a letter 1E47, turn thee from thy sin, seek virtue's paths and walk therein. To others' dames be honor shown, protect them as thou wouldst thine own. Taught by thyself from wrong abstain which, wrought on thee, thy heart would pain. 832 Beware. This lawless love of thine will ruin thee and all thy line, and for thy sin alone, will Lanka perish overthrown. Dream not that wealth and power can sway my heart from duty's path to stray. Linked like the day god and his shine, I am my lord's and he is mine. Repent thee of thine impious deed, to Rama's side his consort lead. Be wise, the hero's friendship gain, nor perish in his fury slain. Go, ask the god of death to spare, or red bolt flashing through the air, but look in vain for spell or charm to stay my Rama's vengeful arm. Thou, when the hero bends his bow, shalt hear the clang that heralds woe, loud as the clash when clouds are rent, and Indra's bolt to earth is sent. Then shall his furious shafts be sped, each like a snake with fiery head, and in their flight shall hiss and flame marked with the mighty archer's name. 833 Then in the fiery deluge, all thy giants round their king shall fall.